You're watching the Alabama Weather Network.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Drew McCombs with the Alabama Weather Network, and this is your morning weather briefing for Sunday, September the 14th. And the story stays the same for a little while here as what we've been seeing here lately, where we've got hot afternoons, but fairly nice mornings because we still got fairly dry air in place over a good portion of the state. So that'll be the story as we've talked about for a number of days here. And we're staying mostly dry. Now, we could have a few scattered showers, maybe a storm or two in a few spots over the next few days, but generally most places staying dry, which has been the case. And a few showers are possible as we get into next weekend. We're hoping we might start to see a little bit of a pattern change as we get into next weekend, maybe a front approaching, and we might have a little bit better rain chances as we head into the next week. But for now, we're going to kind of continue the same story for at least the short term here. Now, looking at our SkyCam network, it's a beautiful start again in the morning. It's 69 degrees in Florence with blue skies and the dew points down in the low 60s, and you got a little bit of a southeasterly wind there, but just another beautiful start across the northwestern part of the state. As we move down towards the southeast, Bald Rock, just a beautiful view here. You can see a little bit of patchy fog there, but some haze, but just another beautiful start at 70 degrees already, and dew points in the upper 50s, and so again, not too bad as far as the way the air mass feels out there. This is one of our newer sky cams in Hoover. You can see the temperature is already up to 72 degrees there, and the wind is calm, and it's blue skies there as well. Really hard to find any clouds across the state this morning. Mount Cheaha, beautiful view there as usual as well. Temperature right at 70 degrees, and again, winds are mainly calm out there right now across the state. Moving further towards the south, Dozier, it's 71 degrees there, a little bit more moisture, but not a whole lot. Dew point at 62 degrees, and got a little bit of an easterly breeze. But again, I don't know if I've seen a cloud so far anywhere. There's a few right there, Fairhope, it looks like. Got a few clouds there over the bay, or a little bit further to the west as we look over the bay. And you can see there just not much of a breeze at all, but it's 73 degrees, and a beautiful start there at the pier in Fairhope. And as we look to the beach, there's a few more clouds showing up there over the Gulf as well, and it's already 80 degrees there at Dolphin Island. So again, another warm day on tap. Current alerts, it's quiet as it has been. We don't see anything going on there. Again, we might have had a few places with some patchy fog this morning that's likely starting to burn off, but nothing as far as a dense fog advisory or anything like that. So we are quiet out there across the state as far as any sort of alerts from the Weather Service. Looking at our satellite or radar loop here across the southeast, you can see do have a little cluster of storms moving to the southwest of Nashville and heading in the general direction of kind of the northwestern corner of the state. So, the Shoals, Muscle Shoals, Florence, some of those parts of Lauderdale County might get clipped with that in the next few hours. So it's possible, if that little complex stays together, that you might get some rain in the northwestern part of the state in the next several hours. So don't be surprised if that happens, but it should be starting to kind of weaken and fall apart as it gets down there. We'll take a look at the model here in a second to look at that. But that would be the only place here this morning we would expect any potential for rain. The rest of the state, will stay blue skies and dry. But if that little cell there manages to stay together, that could bring a little bit of rain to the northwestern sliver of the state there. As far as the satellite is concerned, again, we are really starting off with next to nothing as far as a cloud cover across the state. So just another sunny and warm morning. Looking at our dew points, you can see again we still have some fairly dry air in place across, especially the northern and then again the eastern and southeastern part of the state, and that's been the trend here lately as well. A little bit more moisture to the southwest, but again, not too bad as far as the way the air mass feels out there. And looking at our Futurecast, again, as we start out this morning, it does try to show a few showers, maybe potentially forming as we get into later on today. Not really picking up on the complex from this morning that we saw up there, that little blip that's showing up there in Tennessee right now. But still does show the possibility of maybe a shower or two as we get into tonight and even into tomorrow morning. And then as we get into tomorrow afternoon, a few scattered showers possible in spots, but they look pretty light. And again, as we've continued to see as in recent times, we don't expect any significant rainfall for sure. If you do get a little bit of rain, it won't be for a long period of time generally, and it's not going to be anything that's going to do much as far as soil moisture or anything like that. So again, most places staying dry as we get into tomorrow and also into Tuesday as well. looks like we'll be mostly dry there and continue to be in this same kind of pattern. And it continues to stay pretty quiet across the whole country as well. So really there's just a few, air quality alerts in a few spots. There's a rip current statement across the east coast of Florida and the Carolinas, as there's a low developing there off the southeast coast. But outside of that, there's really not a whole lot going on across the country. Pretty quiet out there. And looking at our satellite and radar, so you've got a trough out to the west where you've got developing low, it looks like there near Denver with some showers and thunderstorms. Got a front draped across the Midwest. Not a whole lot of rain activity with that. Got a cold front moving into the Pacific Northwest at this point. And then you can see off to the southeast coast. We've got a low starting to form along this stalled boundary that will begin to form up and move off to the northeast, almost kind of a early season. It won't be a nor'easter, but it's got a similar sort of pattern to it as how nor'easters form. So it'll be a little low that'll ride up the coast there. We don't expect much here from that. There could be a few, showers especially the eastern part of the state in the next couple of days that could be somehow related to that. But it's obviously the main impacts with that will be up the east coast. But you can see high pressure is still situated near us there, and that'll continue to be the dominant feature in our weather to keep things pretty calm. Severe weather outlook, don't have anything to worry about with that today. The marginal risk, that green area, is moving from the kind of central or western Texas all the way up towards the line or the Canadian border, basically. So you can see a few slight risks there embedded within that, but nothing near here. And then for tomorrow, no official outlook for severe weather for tomorrow across the country. Excessive rainfall potential in a similar area is where we could see some severe thunderstorms today. Nothing near here. And so, again, not expecting any significant rainfall. As far as the tropics are concerned, the wave that has moved off the African coast here will be moving into this red area there in the central Atlantic in the next week. And it does have a pretty high chance at this point, 70% chance, according to the National Hurricane Center, of developing into a tropical system. So basically, we expect sometime this week this will likely become a depression. Again, though, if you look towards the west and the Caribbean, the Gulf looks quiet. And with this, again, the good thing about this one is as we put this forecast of the atmospheric moisture from the GFS into motion here, you can see kind of on the right-hand side of the screen, you got some brighter greens and almost white colors. That's where that system begins to form. And it generally looks like it's going to be gaining enough latitude and moving further towards the north that it likely, if it stays with this type of track, even if it develops into something stronger, will likely be moving out into the open Atlantic and not threatening land is what it appears to be at this point. Here's our pattern as we go through the rest of the week. So we'll see this ridge sort of begin to break down, have an upper level low that's associated with that surface low pressure that is nearby for a day or two. Again, could help to spark off a couple of showers here and there around here. But as we get into next weekend, then we expect to start to see potentially a pattern change here. And what you see there, and this is looking at this next Sunday morning, about a week out from now, that a trough will begin to dig in from the northwest and bring a cold front into our vicinity. And that's going to be where we could start to see a change in our pattern. And looking at the forecast clouds and rain with the GFS for the next 5 days, you can see here that we, again, mainly stay dry. It will have a few potential showers in spots in the next couple of days as we get into Tuesday afternoon. There's that low I was talking about off the coast beginning to form up, and we'll continue to put this into motion. So you see a few green specks over the state through this coming week, but it's nothing significant. As we get into Thursday, start to see a low pressure begin to form off to the northwest near Omaha, and then that starts to bring a cold front towards us. Now, looking into the 6 to 8 day range as we get into next weekend, again, you don't see a lot of the actual rain making it into Alabama. Keeps a lot of it to the west of here as that front starts to kind of approach, but maybe stall a little bit here. But as we get past the next weekend, we does start to go ahead and push that front through. And if we believe this run of the GFS model, it does look like we move into a little bit more of a pattern where we could see a little bit more rainfall and just a little bit more progressive and active pattern where we don't have just a high pressure and just warmth sitting over us for days on end. So again, this looks like we will likely start to see a pattern change as we get into next week, which could bring some rainfall, and we'll see, to be determined how much we actually get. Now, as far as what the Weather Prediction Center is forecasting for the next week, it's not a whole lot in this next 7 days. So just trace amounts in the northwestern part of the state. Could see a couple of spots. If you get underneath a decent storm that may form in the next couple of days, or a shower, you could get up to 1/4 inch. And so again, hopefully some places will get a few downpours, but you can see the vast majority of the state still expected to be pretty much bone dry. But there will be a few showers here and there that will drop a little bit of rainfall, and it doesn't hurt to get that if you can. As far as looking at what has occurred in the last 30 days, you can see that we are definitely dry across most of the states. You can see anywhere you see that kind of orange and reddish color is going to be areas that have seen below normal rainfall. So you can see Birmingham was at 70%, 71% of normal. Tuscaloosa 50% of normal. A few spots have seen right around normal, a little bit over that, where in places that have gotten some rainfall in the southwestern part of the state, up in the northern western part of the state, but generally most of the state has been dry the last 30 days. And again, as far as the rainfall outlook, and actually, sorry about that, I think what I showed you before was the rainfall that has fallen the last week, which wasn't a whole lot, and this is the forecast for what's going to be falling through the next week or so, which again is not much, and is in a similar spot as what has fallen in the last week. But again, we don't expect more than 1/4 inch or so through the next week or so as we look at our forecast. So here's our 7-day forecast for North Alabama. Again, we're keeping just very slight rain chances in the 7-day graphic here, just because there could be an isolated shower or two in spots, but generally mostly sunny and warm afternoons, fairly comfortable mornings, still the story. And then as we get again into the beginning of next weekend, we start to see maybe a little bit of a dip in the temperatures, and maybe a upper trend in the precipitation chances. And then for South Alabama, again, similar story, still spot shower possible, but generally going to be in the upper 80s to low 90s in the afternoons with fairly comfortable mornings. Well, that is your weather briefing for this morning. We're glad to have you watching the Alabama Weather Network, and we'll continue to keep you updated throughout the day.